let's look at Semjaza. Semjaza, also known as Azza, Uzza, and Ouza, is a fallen angel who played one of the most significant roles in corrupting humanity. He is often described as the leader of the fallen angels who descended to earth and initiated a rebellion. Semjaza's primary teachings include enchantments, like spells, root cutting, and he also had various other roles within the group. He specifically persuaded the other angels to engage in illegal sexual relations with human women. This is an idea that he originated and convinced others to participate in. So he is actually the one that caused the fallen angels to fall. Although they did choose to go along with this. But it was his idea to begin with, and he convinced the others to go along with the sinful plan. Semjâzâ is depicted as the leader of the group of angels responsible for corrupting humanity through this forbidden teachings and intermingling of angelic and human realms. It's actually been suggested that this entity was a serpent in the Garden of Eden, but that's absolutely not the case. Semjaza's story is very distinct from the account of Genesis, where the serpent tempts Eve. As I pointed out, this is a leader of the fallen angels known as the Watchers, and their rebellion involves descending to earth and corrupting humanity, which was already in place. While the serpent in the garden represents a distinct entity responsible for tempting Eve, specifically at a time where she was the only human female, and there's no evidence that she intermingled with any of these fallen angels. Additionally, the Watchers taught humans, while the serpent in the Garden of Eden convinced humans to open their mind to wanting this knowledge. So this could have been like a 1-2 punch, where the serpent opened the minds of humans to wanting to pursue knowledge, and then these fallen angels gave this knowledge that led them astray. The serpent allowed humans to know the difference between good and evil, not necessarily knowledge with technology and how to use it, but while these can be related in a one progress to the other kind of way, it's not the same account. There is, however, a different fallen angel which might be associated with the serpent, which I'll come to later. But just to be clear, this is not the account in Genesis. This is the account in the Book of Enoch, and it is a totally separate account of angels falling. And this guy is never said to be cursed to crawl on his belly or any of this. Another major difference is the fallen angels' actions lead to the birth of the Nephilim. That's a Hebrew word which means those who cause others to fall, or the fallen ones. They are a hybrid offspring between angelic beings from the sky and humans. And if that sounds like something you've seen in sci-fi movies, only not with angels, I'll get to that later. So let's look at Babylonian mythology. The god Marduk is known for his rebellion against the primordial goddess Tiamat. Marduk defeated Tiamat and her allies, establishing himself as the ruler of the cosmos. Both Semjâzâ and Marduk are associated with the sky. Semjâzâ is the leader of the Irin, that's the Watchers. He was created and sent by the Lord, who is often called El, to the earth. While Marduk, the son of E, spelled E-A, was the son of Abuz, or the freshwater ocean that was thought at the time in that culture to surround the world. Now, if you look back at Genesis 1:1-2, you see the following. Now, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, or more accurately in Hebrew, it translates to, in the beginning of God's creation of the heavens and the earth. Now, the earth was without shape and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the watery deep. But the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the water. Now, this could literally be water surrounding the sphere of the earth before God created land, one big water world, or it could be a poetic description of what we now call space-time fabric. Either way, Both entities were created alongside a being who is more powerful and associated with primordial waters surrounding the earth. To me, this feels like the same story, but through a different cultural lens. And the names of their parent gods are very similar. Now, the Canaanite god, Quetzalcoatl, kind of sounds like Klingon, is a skilled craftsman and a divine artisan who possesses extensive knowledge of magical and enchanting practices, kind of like using cheat codes for the real world, as well as expertise in various crafts, including metalworking, woodworking, and construction. Although Semjaza is not primarily associated with craftsmanship, some interpretations depict him as knowledgeable and skilled being. This focus on construction and building came up after the Babylonian Empire and could be a result of his influence being behind the construction of the Tower of Babel, or a ziggurat, or stepped pyramid. And although they exist all over the earth, pyramids bring our minds to Egypt. The god Thoth in Egyptian mythology is often associated with knowledge, magic, and writing. Thoth is credited with the invention of writing and hieroglyphics, making him a teacher of knowledge and a way to record enchantments. And in these enchantments, words and stuff like that were very important. So don't forget that a large number of Egyptian writings found inside the pyramids and structures can basically just are curses on people who go in, but they also detail the history of how that came to be. Now, an interesting fact is that the ancient name of Egypt is Kemet. This just means black land. And in the ancient Egyptian language, this was a reference to the fertile black soil along the Nile River. In some areas, some people were skilled in the field of metallurgy, pottery, glassmaking, involving perfumes, cosmetics, dyeing, pigments, medicine, food, beverages, tanning, and water purification, and of course, alchemy. These are the sciences of Kemet, or the studies of Kemet, which eventually got changed into the modern word chemistry. Chemistry comes from Kemet. While the etymology is a little bit more complicated than that, it's chemistry. So in Greek mythology, the Titan, in the Greek mythology, Titans are above gods. In Greek mythology, a Titan named Prometheus is associated with plotting rebellion and sharing knowledge with humanity. Prometheus defied Zeus by stealing fire and giving it to humanity, along with other forms of knowledge. And keep in mind, fire is very important to what humans are now. Without fire, humans would still be living in a very animalistic way. It allows us to cook our food, which allows our bodies to devote more energy away from our immune system into the brain, which allows us to come up with better technologies and basically separates us from nature, separates us from the world God created. Again, a creator entity produces this entity, and then knowledge, represented by that fire, is stolen and improperly given to humans. Remember, Semjaza was a big fan of metalworking, and this requires a pretty good working knowledge of fire, especially in the early days of metalworking. Vulcan is a Roman god associated with construction, blacksmithing, and craftsmanship. He's often depicted as a skilled and talented artisan who forges weapons, tools, various metal objects for gods and heroes. Vulcan is recognized as the god of fire and volcanoes, further emphasizing his association with heat and metallurgy. His role as the god of construction aligns with his ability to create and build, making him an important figure in Roman mythology and for all matters related to construction and craftsmanship. It would appear that as time went on, technology and knowledge these beings brought seemed less magical and just became a normal part of life. I would like to point out that something as simple as electricity would seem like magic to someone many years ago. It's just one that we understand now. Loki is known for his rebellious nature and trickery. His involvement in various disruptive acts show this. He often challenges the established order and engages in cunning actions that have consequences for both gods and mortals in that mythology. This entity is essentially a troublemaker who upsets the status quo, or a troll. I mean that as an internet troll, not like the mythical creature. This is just one of 200 multifaceted angels, and we see how this knowledge has led to every weapon of war ever created, every kind of drug ever created from IKEA, and quite a bit more. Also with the settling down of humans and failing to accept our command of filling the earth and subduing it. Although we are kind of filling it now. It just took us a while to get around to it. Now, I'm not going to cover all 200 of these angels because nobody has time for that. And we don't have the resources to know any of this information. But I will cover their leaders. And there are 20 of them. So, Semjâzâ and the other fallen angels have left their mark on human history, shaping various aspects of human knowledge, crafts, and the rebellious spirit that challenges the established order. Their stories are found in different mythologies and cultures, offering fascinating insights to the intersection of celestial beings and humanity's quest for knowledge and power. This has led to, strangely enough, modern medicine and witchcraft alike. However, the evidence shows that the former evolved from the latter. In fact, the word pharmacy literally just comes from the Greek word pharmakia, which did have some associations with witchcraft and sorcery. It encompassed spells, potions, and magical remedies. A lot of these were poisonous. Think like chemotherapy. It's poisonous chemicals, but it can have some benefit. In ancient times, there was a very blurry line between the practice of medicine, the use of healing herbs and drugs, and occult practices. So regardless of which of these entities Semjâzâ might have been, we can see that his influence spanned thousands of years and is likely still here. Be it by another name or anonymously in the background pulling strings of world events. This is why you must always put to the test spirits to see if they are of God, and guard your heart against all the evil forces in the world. Now, the teachings and actions of the fallen angel Semjâzâ in the Book of Enoch can be related to many modern-day political topics in the world. For example, Semjâzâ taught humans how to make weapons, armor, jewelry, and this could be seen as a precursor to the technology of the arms race. That's where everyone's just trying to build better weapons to kill each other with. Semjâzâ is also said to have taught humans the practice of astrology and divination. This could be seen as a precursor to the rise of various kinds of pseudoscience and the spread of misinformation. In addition to Semjâzâ's rebellion against God, his could be seen as related to the rise of human arrogance and the rejection of divine authority. Think of the literal teachings of the actual Church of Satan, where they basically don't want to serve God, they want to serve themselves, and what they want is what's important. And this is not the way God intended it to be. Also, the teachings and actions of Semjâzâ in the Book of Enoch can be seen as warnings about the dangers of sin and the importance of staying on the path of righteousness. But let's look at some specific examples of where this can lead. So, the development of nuclear weapons can be seen as a modern-day example of the teachings of Semjâzâ. After all, the Hindu religion actually teaches that the gods used a device very much like a nuclear bomb and its effects and after effects. Nuclear weapons are incredibly destructive and have the power to wipe out entire civilizations. But let's take a look at an ancient nuclear device in India, as captured in their religious text, the Mahabharata. I'm having trouble pronouncing some of these names. Gurkha, flying a swift and powerful Vimana, it's a fast aircraft, hurled a single projectile charged with the power of the universe. Think like a rocket with the power of the atom. An incandescent column of smoke and flame, as bright as 10,000 suns, rose with all its splendor. And it was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death, which had reduced to ashes the entire race of the Vrishnis and the Indikas. The corpses were burned as to be unrecognizable. So it's a metallic weapon, said made of iron, that brings death. It creates a bright light 10,000 times brighter than the sun, a column of smoke and fire. I'm picturing a mushroom cloud. But here's what gets weird. What happens if you visit this area after this? The Mahabharata continues. Hair and nails fall out. Pottery broke without apparent cause. And the birds all turned white. Some of the text is missing, but then it leads to, after a few hours, all foodstuffs were infected. Some text is also missing. It's a very old document. And then, to escape from the fire, soldiers threw themselves in streams to wash themselves and their equipment. So why are they washing themselves? Like, I get hiding underwater to get away from fire, but washing yourself might be having something more to do with radioactive fallout. Now, you can look up the Mahabharata, and the name of this weapon was the Brahmastra, if you're curious. Now, India does have a area where this is said to have happened, and it is a crater. The sand is vitrified, means the sand was turned into glass, which requires a lot of heat, and the background levels of radiation are much higher here. So another thing you can look up after this video. Now, the rise of social media and spread of misinformation can be seen as modern-day examples of the teaching of Semjâzâ. Social media platforms are often used to spread false information and propaganda. This can have negative impact on society and can lead to conflict. The rise of human arrogance and the rejection of divine authority can be seen as a modern-day example of the actions of Semjâzâ. And many people around the world today believe that they are their own gods. They do as thy will. And they believe that they do not need to answer to anyone. This can lead to conflict and chaos.